Hey there, folks. It's me, Colin from Glass Half Broken. Decided to let my hair down a bit, just kind of in a celebration of Blade Runner 2049. As you've probably seen in trailers, Jared Leto has his hair all in the back there, and he's got crazy eyes and stuff. So I thought, why not? Well, his hair's not quite as long as mine, but why not? And he talks like this the entire time, which is interesting. But yeah, I decided to talk a little bit about Blade Runner 2049, and I think it's shocking how much I enjoy this film, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure everyone who's a fan of the original Blade Runner, myself included, just basically none of the fans wanted a sequel. Like, it was, I don't think any actual fan of Blade Runner wanted a sequel to Blade Runner. It was one of those perfect movies where it was just like, all right, the beginning, the middle, and the end, everything about it was just perfectly encapsulated into this one thing. Like, it really didn't, like, open itself up great to a sequel, and it ended so well. And well, I mean, the director's cut. I've always been a fan of the director's cut. I like the final cut as well. And but I don't get too crazy with it, with like theorizing and getting all crazy with all the theories and things. And it's just a great film. It's just a really good movie. So over the years, it was just kind of like, all right, yeah, they're thinking about making a second one. Don't think they really need to. It's not going to live up to the second one. It's not going to live up to the original. So it's kind of weird that it came out and it's really good. Like, it's almost, it's not quite a Mad Max Fury Road situation where it comes out and not only is it not disappointing, it's actually better than all of the previous Mad Max films. Like, it's not that situation. The original Blade Runner is still a better movie. It's one of the greatest movies of all time, according to me and a bunch of other nerds. And so the one big surprising thing about it, well, there's several surprising things about it. One of them is the fact that it is not a action-packed extravaganza. Another thing would be, like, it's not just the same film twice. It's not the same film again. But going back to the fact that it's action-packed, like, you look at, there's a lot of very slowly paced sci-fi films from like the 70s and 80s, like it was like Star Trek, just Star Trek, the series, and then the early Star Trek movies, and then there was Tron, and it was just very slow moving sci-fi was totally a thing then. And then when they try to bring those back years later, then they're just like, no, we need to have it be way more fast paced and action packed. Same thing happened with Doctor Who, the original Doctor Who series from the 60s all the way into the 80s. It was very slowly paced, and it was a very thoughtful series. And then once they brought it back with Christopher Eccleston, then David Tennant, Matt Smith, Peter Capaldi, and now with the new person whose name I cannot remember, and I do apologize. But it is like, yeah, it's just good. It just goes. It's just like from the beginning of the episode, it's just sort of like, oh god, Daleks, and so that I think a lot of people thought that was what was going to happen with Blade Runner. It was just be like, all right, they're going to bring back this old, film that was a very slow burn. This film, it didn't have it wasn't super action packed. It was a very a very cerebral film, very thought provoking, and all those buzzwords, and so they were like, all right, you knew it was going to be different, and I think because of the fact that you have Tron Legacy came out in 2010, many years after Tron, and they were like, no, it needs to be fast paced, action packed. Now the new Star Trek movies, and then now I've not seen the new Star Trek show, but a lot of people say that it is once again action. It's all about action, very fast paced, and that for them to just be like, all right, well, let's not follow that trend. Let's if we're gonna make another Blade Runner movie, let's make it a slow burn. And it is like almost 3 hours, I want to say, and it takes its time, and that's what I think is great about it, is that they they said, hey, you know what? No, fuck it. Let's like the fans don't want a big action-packed Blade Runner, and you know, I certainly wasn't really looking for that. I probably would have been fine if they had done it well. You know, if it was a situation like you know, I liked Star Trek Beyond. I liked Tron Legacy. You know, I thought they were fine, but this was a situation where it's just like, all right, let's take our time with it. And like also I said before, they didn't just copy-paste it. They didn't just say, let's do Blade Runner again. Let's not, you know, which is something that they've been doing a lot with something like Star Wars, you know, with like the Force Awakens, which is essentially just a soft reboot of the original, you know, trilogy. And, you know, it's, or the first film, I should say. And, you know, the same thing has been going on with a lot of things. You know, as much as I love Mad Max Fury Road, it's essentially just a retooled version of The Road Warrior, which is the second Mad Max film. But it was done so well, I didn't give a shit. I was like, this is just a great movie. So, this is a continuation of Blade Runner, and it's not necessarily just the same movie. And the plot is fairly simple. You have Ryan Gosling, he's a Blade Runner, and he's out to find a replicant that was born and not created. So yeah, you know, Blade Runner is all about these replicants. They're androids, and there used to be a more finicky version of them that rebelled. Then they basically retired them. Mainly they killed them. They retired them, and yeah, they got these people, these detectives named Blade Runners. And in the original film, it was played by Harrison Ford, Deckard, and so he. And then now you've got Ryan Gosling, and there is a new run of the replicants that are more obedient. So those are okay, but any of the older the models have to be retired. And that's where Ryan Gosling and any other Blade Runners come in. And so, essentially, they find evidence that a replicant actually gave birth. And that's this is the very beginning of the film. This is not really like a spoiler. It might be a minor spoiler if you know nothing about the film. But this happens in like the first like 10, 15 minutes of the film. They find like, oh shit. We found the remnants of the remains of this replicant, and she gave birth, which is impossible. These are like android, like they're human adjacent. They're not really quite, you know, full metal robot people, but at the same time they're not fully human. So they're in this kind of like in between. And so then the lieutenant of the police of the LAPD, one of the higher ups there, says that they need to find this born replicant and destroy them, because no one can know that replicants can give birth, or else, you know, like the fact that they're using these replicants essentially for slave labor, they're being created to serve. Like that, people are going to be starting to, you know, they're going to be against that. There's going to be a crazy, you know, rebellion all over. It's going to be, you know, completely nuts. So it's basically Ryan Gosling, his character is out there to try and find this born replicant, and then along the way, Harrison Ford's character from the original film, Deckard, is in it, and what I like is that it's not just a cameo for cameo's sake. He is actually an important character in the film. I'm not going to go too deeply into it, because the plot I just said is just like the tip of the iceberg, and there's so much other shit in this movie that like is like, you know, not shit, but like there's so much stuff in this movie that like anything else I say is just going to be spoilers. So it's basically just his journey to find this replicant, and then other things happen that I'm not going to say. But it is, once it is very methodically paced. Let's say, I think that's the best, the nicest way to say that something is a bit slow moving. But as a positive, like it takes its time. You go really deep into Ryan Gosling's character, and then some other characters. He has a hologram girlfriend, and it's kind of interesting the relationship between him and her. And eventually he upgrades her. Like originally, she's only able to walk around the apartment as a hologram, and then he gets this upgrade thing where he like has this little like remote that he keeps her in. So then he takes her out, and sometimes he's like at a crime scene somewhere, and then just takes her out, and she just starts talking to him about stuff, and she's all like, "Well, this is fucked up," whatever. And there is a payoff for that, and that's an interesting take on that. And the one thing though that's kind of that's interesting that I really liked, that I could see a lot of people not like. I actually don't know. I haven't really seen the reaction on the internet of really this movie. I know it's been getting some good reviews, but I haven't really seen a lot of reviews, or like read specific reviews about it. Jared Leto is pretty much the bad guy. He's the head of Wallace, which is he's Wallace. His last name's Wallace. I forget his first name, but he is basically the guy that replaced Tyrell. And the Tyrell Corporation they were the creators of the replicants in the first film. They went under. Wallace took over, and he wants to find this born replicant as well, because he wants to mass produce these replicants, and he wants to make more of them. So if they can, be born, that would be a lot better. And then you also, all right. So here's the reason why I think a lot of people might not like this character, is because he is such an aggressive douchebag, to the point where, like, Jared Leto does such a good job making him the most unlikable piece of shit, because he's such a pretentious asshole. And like, you first meet him, and like I said at the very beginning of this video, like, he talks like this the entire time, and he will go off on these philosophical rants about life and existence, and this sort of existential, and it's just like, and he'll just go off on it. And like, he has this henchman, this replicant woman, who is basically just out to she's out to basically, she's like his bodyguard. She's like the right hand woman, and she's pretty good, even though like she's this sort of like stone cold replicant that's there to kind of help him, and to try and like help Ryan Gosling's character as well, to find this born replicant, and I think she's really good, but at the same time she does pop off a couple of one-liners, which is kind of weird. Like, she like beats up a character, and then she just goes, "Bad dog," and it's just, it was kind of out of character. It was a little out of place. Very rare. That happened like once, and I thought it was kind of weird. If there's a director's cut, that might be something that's like cut. But it's interesting. When I first saw Jared Leto's character, going back to him, I was just like, boy, he's really laying it on thick, until I kind of realized that, like, that was A, kind of the point, and B, like, it was very effective. Like, you just didn't like this guy, and you weren't supposed to. And I think for that, Jared Leto did actually a really good job, because like, it's not so much that you hate the character from a film standpoint, just from a narrative standpoint, you're just like, this guy's a total dick. And so I actually think he did a good job. I think some people might not like him just because he's not as a great villain, or antagonist, let's say, as like Rutger Hauer's character in the original film, who is one of the best film antagonists of all time. So, but like, I think he does a good job. And then once again, his henchman, named Love, Luv, that I talked about before, like, she's really good too as kind of an antagonist, because it's one of those situations where it's like, are they helpful? Are they not? Like, do they want to do they want to help? Do they want to hinder? And I think they do a good job with kind of like balancing that out throughout the film. It's a great standalone film. Like, it doesn't, like, you don't really need, like, you're going to get a lot more out of it if you've seen the original film, but I honestly think that, like, it's just a great standalone film too. Like, if you've never seen it, like, you'd be able to, like, pick it up. Like, they do talk about, and they do reference events from the first film, but I think you'll pick it all up. You'll put two and two together. So yeah, Blade Runner 2049. It's really good. It's once again, not as good as the original, but it's near impossible to hold that. I mean, that's held up as one of the greatest sci-fi films of all time. And it's between this and also like the Trainspotting sequel, which I really liked. Once again, not as good as the original, but it's still quite good. 2049 might be one of my favorite movies of the year. It's amazing. All right, well that's it. I will see you guys later, and we'll go back to shorter videos later on. So, see ya.